I know English is your first language. And I'm reading and I'm like, I know. Maisha here, and welcome to my library. Today it is November 30th, 2025, and I'm just gonna do a quick rundown of the books I read in October. Um, I didn't read a thing in September. Okay, that's not true. I read a lot of fan fiction, and I think I read some manhwas. I'm reading two danmis and two different series, and I'm making progress. But anyway, so we're gonna be looking at the books I read in the month of October. Haven't read a thing in November yet, so there will be no November recap. That's for sure. But yeah, so October, I think I read six books. I'm not 100% sure. I think I read five or six books. I had set a challenge with my best friend that I was going to read 15 books for the month, but then I read a book and the book pissed me off so much that I said I was not reading another book for the rest of the year. Obviously I think I read like two or three books after I said that. Nope, two books. Yeah, I read two books after I said that. But the book drained me so much. It made me so angry that like it put me in a slump because I actually started off the month really well, sorry. And I was going really well because I think in like the first 4 days, I had already read four books. Four or five. No. Yeah, no. In the first 4 days, I had already read three books. So I was going to make my 15 books for the month. And then I read This Book Betrays My Brother. And it felt like the book betrayed me more than anything. But yeah, so there will be spoilers for these books because I always have a lot to say, unfortunately. So the first book I read this month was Black Girls Must Die Exhausted, and I rated that book 1 star. It wasn't a bad book. Anyway, so content warnings for this book, things like infertility, there's a suicide attempt, and low-key toxic friendship, because the friendship between the main character and her two best friends was a bit strange. So we have the main character whose name is Tabitha. Tabitha is 33 years old and she had a checklist for her life and certain things she wanted to accomplish. She wanted to have a kid, get married, she wanted to have a kid, and then she finds out that I think her eggs were dying or something like that. And she had this boyfriend who wasn't ready to I guess step up. Yeah, drama happens. I'm going to be honest. I don't like the book. Um, to have a book like this, I don't like the book because I don't like the main character. To have a story that revolves a main character who, I'm going to be honest, isn't really all that likable, and we're supposed to care about her life problems as it gets out of control, but then the character herself isn't really captivating. I couldn't care less about her problems. I couldn't care less about her. I couldn't care less about her friends because one of her friends, whose name I cannot remember, was in a relationship, right? And yeah, the guy, I'm going to be honest, like the way they described the guy, he was pretty trash, especially when they were younger. He was pretty trash, yada, yada, yada. But the way they would talk about her behind her back just because she would get excited about things, it felt very like petty and not genuine. And then like they would leave out like, and then two of them would leave out another friend, and then that friend makes an attempt, and then she says, I felt like I was being left out. And then after Tabitha grandmother passes away, she doesn't tell her about her grandmother passes away because she thinks she could not handle it. But then I was like, isn't that also her leaving the friend out? Like she feels like she felt like she didn't have a community, but her community was still excluding her from things that were going on in their lives. And this woman, Tabitha, she was like 33 years old, and it's like she didn't have any common sense. Like I felt like I was reading a book about an adult who whose frontal lobe didn't fully develop. Because babe, why are you trying to trap this man? Right? Because one of her friends suggested, oh well, things happen sometimes, and then like she skips her birth control, so she tries to baby trap him so he can give her the kid. Like, girl, just go to a donor facility or something and get somebody's sperm if you want a kid that badly and your boyfriend doesn't want to give you a kid. Like, it was getting ridiculous. And like there was a certain point I think I was going to rate it 2 stars, but then I can't remember exactly what happened, but it happened, and I got to a certain part in the book and I was like, what are we even doing here at this point in time? I think there are like two other books in the series, and honestly, I've gotten sick of this. Like, too many things are becoming series when it should just be a standalone. There's two more books in the series, and I will unfortunately not be picking up any of them. And I'm very mad at this book because I loved the title, Black Girls Must Die Exhausted. Because it's true. It was a very intriguing title. Black girls are expected to work harder than everyone else and get like a smidge of the recognition. But this book itself exhausted me. Like it exhausted me so bad. There was this okay, I just remembered. The reason I changed this book from a 2-star rating to a 1-star rating, right? So the friend was in the relation to the only one of them who was married, right? Like the other two, they would mock her relationship because when they were younger, the guy was like wishy-washy and he would cheat on her and stuff and yada yada yada, and he gave her an STI once, and yeah, she was kind of for marrying him, but like as her friends, you probably shouldn't be talking about her behind her back. So okay, he stopped doing all of that. They worked everything out. Everybody grew. They matured. Yada yada yada. And then she finds out that he cheated on her, and she doesn't tell her other friend, the other friend in the group, the one who made the attempt. She was trying to keep it low key, but she also kind of wanted to tell her in person. Mind you, that other friend was sleeping with a married man. No, not her husband, a different married man. That's not important. So what Tabitha does, Tabitha, I mentioned a boyfriend. So she and the boyfriend ended up breaking up because of their different ones at that point in time. So what Tabitha does is Tabitha a night she has a breakdown or something. No, no, she didn't have a breakdown. She and the guy after they broke up, they went on a date, right? To see if they could try to get back together, which is anyway. And she is telling this man, listen, red flags are red flags. She's telling this man about how her friend's husband cheated on her, but she and this man haven't even gotten back together. And her best friend explicitly told her that she didn't want anyone else to know. She so didn't want anyone else to know that she hadn't even told her other best friend yet. Like it was just sickening at that point in time. And like by the time everything started genuinely falling apart for her, like with her grandmother's death and everything else, like I was just like, girl, I do not care. And when I found out that there was another more books in the series, I was like, oh, well, I'm sure someone else will love it, but it will not be me. And like they just sucked. Or she sucked. Her other friends Loki sucked. Except the married one didn't suck all that much. She wasn't that bad. But I think that's also because we didn't really get much of her. Um, but yeah, if I had to have friends like these people, I would actually rather have zero friends like I do right now. um, Next book was These Letters End in Tears. I actually don't have much to say about this book. I'm not sure how I rated it actually. These Letters End in Tears. These Letters End in Tears. Okay, I gave this 3 stars because it was a perfectly mediocre book. So content warning. We have death, hate crimes, homophobia, misogyny, sexism, torture, violence, police brutality, murder, alcoholism. And there's this thing that happens like in this story where she goes undercover at like a mosque for her to find information. I'll tell the plot just now, but she goes undercover at like a mosque for her to find information. And then it was just so weird because this girl was making a costume out of Islam to get information, and then like she was telling her best friend, I think I could be a Islamic convert, and the best friend was like, girl, you don't even respect your actual religion. I know for a fact that you're not going to respect this other religion because you yourself have stated that it's weird, so can you just not? But anyway, so this book, These Letters End in Tears, is about I actually don't know any of these people's names. I'm going to be honest. I don't know not one of their names. It's about our main character. Her name is Bessem. Bessem is a lesbian, and the entire point of this book is her writing letters, I guess, although it wasn't really letters, but it was her writing letters to her lost love, Fatima. The story takes place in the here and now, and it also takes us to the past, to her relationship with Fatima. One night, she and Fatima were together, they were in love, and then one night, Fatima is Islamic. And one night, this takes place in, I should also specify, this takes place in Cameroon. I'm gonna be honest, I can't remember what year, but anyway, this takes place in Cameroon. Fatima is Islamic, and she and Fatima are in love. And then They meet in university, yada yada yada, in love, blah blah blah. They get married, and one night whilst they're out, Fatima's brother catches them, and so he beats them, gets them arrested. Then her parents pick her up. Fatima stays in jail for a bit, and then Fatima disappears. 13 years later, Bessem sees Fatima's best friend from back then, and she tries to find Fatima. Yes, sorry, I got worried for a second. I was mixing around their names. Yes, so she's trying to find Fatima, and I'm going to be honest, she does a lot of crazy things trying to find Fatima. Just to find out at the end of the book that Fatima's dead. Yes, Fatima's dead at the end of it. Her brother killed her when she tried to leave. She genuinely, after she got out of prison, jail, she tried to pack her things and leave. And well, he's a grown man. He overpowered her. He killed her. He said it was an accident. I'm going to be honest, I do believe him when he said it was an accident. But like at the same time, you killed your sister, you buried her body, and then you like went on trying to atone for it by becoming a, I can't remember what they call them. Yeah, but it was actually kind of crazy and wild. I did not like Besem. I was so irritated at Besem at a certain point in the novel, and I just wanted to get it over with. So I picked up my phone and I went on Google and I Googled, in these letters ending tears, do Besem and Fatima reunite? Google told me yes. No, and like Google told me yes, like WTF. Like what? Like I was so sick and irritated of Besem. Like when all this stupidness she was doing, trying to find Fatima and pretend like she had a leg to stand on, and like I wanted to spoil it for myself. And I was like, okay, great. They reunite, they get back together. Yay, true love wins. Google is a liar. Yeah, she does die. She's dead. She's dead. She's dead, dead, dead. So I don't know why Google felt the need to lie that they reunited. Or I guess in a way they did reunite because she found out where the body was buried. So I guess that's something. Yeah, that's something. The third book I read for the month. And this is the book that put me in a reading slump for majority of the month. This book betrays my brother. I gave that trash 1 star. And listen to the synopsis from Goodreads. Basi is, listen, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing these names correctly. Basi is as special as raindrops on dying crops. I say this not with jealousy, but with apology, really. An honest, heartfelt, and heartbreaking apology coming from a sister's guilt. It is my way of explaining him and what he did, lest you judge him too harshly after you listen to what I am about to tell you. That is freaking crazy to say, actually, because lest you judge him too harshly after you listen to what I'm about to tell you, go, don't piss me off. But anyway, all her life, Naladi has been in awe of Basi, her charming and outgoing older brother. They've shared childhood laughter, secrets, and alliances, the quirks of their parents, and the stories of the adventurous boys from Kasi. At 13, Naladi is beginning her own adventures. Kitsano asks her to the matric dance, and Kitsano asks her to the matric dance, and she revels in a flurry of excited anticipation. Then, unexpectedly, Naladi sees Basi in an act that contradicts everything she believes about him. So, set in the shifting South African landscape of the mid 1990s, this nuanced coming of age story explores the bonds of sibling love and loyalty and a young woman's role in a complicated world. Now, this was seemed very interesting, right? And I started reading this book off the back of like right after, like I think the same day I finished reading These Letters End in Tears, I started reading this book, Betrays My Brother. And the title was so interesting, and then like the synopsis, it drew me in. And I genuinely thought he was going to be gay or something, because as I stated, I read it right off the back of These Letters End in Tears. So I thought it was going to be something like that. No, so the content warning for this book is rape, and you probably guess where this book is going. This book did not betray her brother. I'm sorry, it did not. So let's say, okay, how many pages is this? This is listed on Goodreads as having 208 pages, right? Let's say we spent the first 150 pages talking about her brother and a hero worshiping her brother. And then in the last 50 pages, boom, the inciting incident happens. The thing that her brother does that makes her seem like it happens, and then boom, we done with the book. Like she spent like she spent majority of the book worshiping the ground her brother walks on. I don't know if it's to try to justify what he did, because that is what it was coming across as. Like you cannot set up this book as my brother did something bad, my brother did something terrible, but here's all the reasons of why my brother is great. And then boom, we find out that he assaulted, we find out that he raped his girlfriend, and he got away with it because his family did for him to get away with it. She saw him, she saw him do it. She saw him do it. And I get that there's loyalty to your brother, but it gets to a certain point, because I spent the entirety of this book waiting for it to begin, and that is my least favorite type of book. I had that complaint with what do you call that book again, the virgin suicide. I hate when I sit down waiting for a book, I'm sitting waiting for a book to start when I'm in the middle of the book. Like that is just so freaking frustrating. Like I unlike the story could have been interesting, right? It could have been compelling, it could have been great, except it wasn't. It's like the author had this really great premise, and then like she fumbled. It's like when I'm reading fan fiction and like they have this really cool plot idea, and then I start reading it and I'm like, I know English is your first language. And I'm reading and I'm like, I know English is your first language, because if English was your second language, this would have been a masterpiece and you would have done great with it. But no, instead, you bungled such an amazing plot idea. Like, why would you? This book has a 3.76 rating, and it has 345 ratings. I wish my 1 star review could have brought it further down, because why am I reading a book about you basically worshiping the ground your brother walks on? Boom, he rips his girlfriend, then boom, we just move past the bad thing he did, and he gets a happily ever after, and then the girl he raped, her reputation is tarnished because she wore a short skirt. She wanted it. Because she followed him home. She wanted it. Like, so yeah, that put me off reading for a while for the month. The next book I read was Please Look After Mom. And I should say that a bit more enthusiastically because I did like that one. I rated it 5 stars. And then the next book I read was Please Look After Mom. It's originally a Korean novel. It was translated to English, and oh my god, listen to the synopsis. This had me in my feels. My mom wasn't here by the time I finished reading it, and like I just kept calling her phone because I was sad. Okay, so when 69-year-old Sonia is separated from her husband among the crowds of the Seoul subway station and vanishes, their children are consumed with loud reclamations and are washed in sorrow and guilt. As they argue over the missing flyers they are posting throughout the city, how larger for reward to offer, the best way to phrase the text, they realize that none of them have a recent photograph of mom. Soon a larger question emerges. Do they really know the woman they called mom? Told by the alternating voices of mothers, sorry, told by the alternating voices of mom's daughter, son, her husband, and in the shattering conclusion by mom herself, the novel pieces together Rashomon style, a life that appears ordinary but is anything but. This is a mystery of one mother that reveals itself to be the mystery of all our mothers, about her triumphs and disappointments, and about who she is on her own terms, separate from who she is to her family. If you have ever been a daughter, son, a husband, or a mother, Please Look After Mom is a revelation, one that will bring tears to your eyes. I rated this book 5 stars, and by the time I finished reading the book, I was trying to figure out what to put in my Goodreads review, because every now and then, if I really, 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 really like a book, I will write a review instead of just reading it. And all I could come up with for my review is, okay, I'll look after mom. Because what else can I say? So, content warning for this book is, I guess, domestic abuse and gore. And this was a very interesting book with the way it was written, with each chapter from a different perspective. I think there were four, let me not lie, 4 chapters in total. Yeah, so it's daughter, son, father, mother, and then there's the epilogue in the daughter's perspective. There's two other children, but we don't actually get their perspectives in the story. This book is like really heartbreaking. Like major spoiler, and which is pretty obvious from the jump, but like you hold out hope for a miracle. But like mom is dead. Like, and like as I stated, that is pretty obvious that she's probably already dead as they're doing all of this. But like as we go through the different POVs, we see how each of them saw that something was wrong with mom at some point in time, and they either ignored it or didn't succeed in doing something about it. We get their perspectives on how they ignored mom, treated her badly, disregarded her the older they got. Sorry, we see the impact she had on their lives as they grew up and the impact she still had even after her death. Because even after her death, like they genuinely all started making changes to their lives. When I found out her husband cheated on her, I was like, but then in her perspective, we find out that she was also in love with somebody else, which like this book hurt my feelings so badly, and talking about it is making me feel a type of way still. Like it hurt my feelings really badly because like when I got done reading it, like genuinely all I wanted to do is hug my mom because like it genuinely made me think about how I treated my mother. Like, and I didn't treat my mother anyway like that, but like I was a teenager once and I was a brat. Like I was genuinely like a huge brat when I was younger. Like I followed my mom's rules. I did what she asked of me, but like on top of that, like I was like one of the biggest brats around. Like I'm like genuinely, my grandmother told me once that she thought like once I became an adult, I would pack my things and leave and never look back to my mother, which is crazy because now, like I am under my mother's foot. Like my mother's here, my mother turned her head and I'm there. Be here shit like in those horror movies and you turn your head and you just see someone there. That's me. I'm always there. Like I'm always there. She's sleeping, I'm there. Last night, 1 o'clock this morning, I went to wake up my mother because I found out my best friend isn't coming home for Christmas. Did I have a reason to wake up my mother? No. Could I tell my mother that in the morning after she woke up? Yes. I went and woke up my mother at 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, I'm sorry. Like, as my mother's favorite daughter, allegedly, I will be the most bothersome person in her life. Like no one will ever love you like I love you. Not even your husband. You hear that, mommy? You hear me, mommy? Okay. Okay, the next book I read this month was no, let me take out actually. Yeah. I'm going to actually take out all the joy in my voice for that one. Because I had more one-star reviews this month than any other rating. So dial down the joy. The next book I read this month was Game Changer. Let me specify because I think there's a couple game changers. Game Changer by Rachel Reed. Content warning, sexual content, homophobia, and there's like injury description, in-depth injury description. I did not like this book. What is this book about? I don't know. Anyway, it's like a hockey romance, blah 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 blah. The main character is irritating. His name is Kip, and he ends up dating superstar hockey player Scott Hunter. The way they meet, Kip works at what do you even call it? What do you even call it? We don't have these here. Wait, what does he work at actually? A smoothie pause. A smoothie shop? Is that what it is? Oh, a juice bar. He works by in a juice bar. And one day Scott comes in. Scott is having like a really terrible season, and he comes in and Kip makes him a blueberry smoothie or something like that. Yeah, Kip makes him a smoothie, and then when he plays that night, he wins. So Scott decides that that is going to be part of his you know how athletes are superstitious, right? So he keeps doing it over and over, and then he and Kip get together, they fall for each other, they get together. So here's why I hate Kip. I hate Kip for burning passion because okay, maybe hate is like too strong of a word, but he genuinely pissed me off so much because Scott makes it clear, right? Like I don't understand what would possess a person to get into a relationship with someone knowing that you are informed that you would have to keep the relationship a secret, and then you get upset because the relationship has to be kept a secret. Like Scott told him like from the jump, straight up front, like about how things had to go. They had to go like a certain way. You cannot reveal our relationship. We won't be able to go out and be like like that because like it could have a detrimental effect on my career. He tells him all of this, right? Kip is like, okay, sure. Kip's best friend is like, are you sure you can handle this? He's like, yeah, of course I can handle it. I can, I swear. I can handle not telling anyone about our relationship. I love him, I love him, I love him so much. Scott is like, you don't have to do this if you don't want to do this. And he's like, no, 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 no. We can. Our relationship can stay a secret. Then he started pissing me off because why are you mad that your relationship is a secret after you agreed for your relationship to be a secret? Like, make that make sense. Like, where is the logic in that? Like, Scott told you from the jump. He laid out the terms. He was like, it has to go so. And you were like, I'm okay with it going so. Your best friend says, I don't think you'll be able to handle that. You're like, I'm in love with him, so even if I have to keep it a secret, it will be worth it. Then 2 seconds later, you're spiraling over the fact that your relationship has to be kept a secret. Like by the end of the book, I'm going to be honest, I was hoping that they would break out. And then like when Scott came out, I was like, ugh. Like generally, when I was a teenager and I would read books like that on Wattpad, right? Like with one person is out and the other person isn't. And like they start getting, they know the relationship has to be kept a secret for one reason or another. And they choose to date that person. And then they get mad at them for not being out. It starts to feel like they're forcing them to come out of the closet. And I'm not saying that is exactly what happened in this book, but like that is what it was feeling like to me. And it frustrated me so much that like I could kill it. Like at some point I was just flipping through the pages. Because I was like, I don't want you guys to have a happy ending. Break up, break up, break up, break up, break up. And you know what? This, I want a sequel to this where they break up because Scott deserves it. I'll be with myself. And so the last book I read this month, well, technically not the last, but it's the last. I did start reading Beartown in October too, but I didn't finish reading it because it started frustrating me because of how it was written. But anyway, the last book I read that in October was Monday's Not Coming, and I gave that one 3 stars. Monday Charles is missing, and only Claudia seems to notice. Claudia and Monday have always been inseparable, more sisters than friends. So when Monday doesn't turn up for the first day of school, Claudia's worried. When she doesn't show for the second day or second week, Claudia knows that something is wrong. Monday wouldn't just leave her to endure tests and bullies alone. Not after last year's rumors and not with her grades on the line. Now Claudia needs her best friend and only her best now Claudia needs her best and only friend more than ever. But Monday's mother refuses to give Claudia a straight answer, and Monday's sister April is even less help. As Claudia digs deeper into her friend's disappearance, she discovers that no one seems to remember the last time they saw Monday. How can a teenage girl just vanish without anyone noticing that she's gone? No, that is an interesting premise. Like, it's so interesting. It's so interesting. I give it 3 stars, right? Content warning: bullying, child abuse, child death, homophobia, mental illness, grief, miscarriage, panic attacks slash disorders, physical abuse, toxic relationship, violence, sexual concept. Nope, nope, I lied. Violence, sexual content, murder, I guess. Not, no, it's not funny. Murder. Um, this book was a doozy and it was low-key kind of exhausting to read. Like, okay, so I got really annoyed with the timeline at a certain point because so like the way it's set up, you have the before and then you have the after, but then you also have things like 2 years before the before, and then you're like, okay, I kind of get where we're going, but then at a certain point, you were reading the book and I bet your bottom dollar that you would not know if you were in the before, the after, or the before. Well, you know, you would know if you were in the before, because in the before, then no, actually, because So if I understood correctly, the before is Monday's missing, but we don't know what happened to Monday. And the after is Monday's missing, but we don't know what happened to Monday. I'm just gonna spoil it, right? Okay, so in the after is after the before, where she finds out that Monday is dead and her mother, that Monday is gone. She passed away along with their little brother August, and her body was stuffed in the deep freeze in her apartment. But in the after, you pick up on clues that like she knows what happened to Monday, but like you don't know what happened to Monday because she like had a mental break and like she forgot. And like apparently that happened multiple times. And so like they were pretending like Monday was still missing, because every time they told her, she would have another break and then she would forget again. So like even in the after, she's still investigating Monday's death and whatnot. So like it was very confusing at a certain point whilst you're reading it, because you're expecting to be in the after, but you're in the after, but it's like you're reading as you're still in the before. So like I was genuinely complaining to my best friend, because I was like, we're in the after, but we're in the after of what? What is the after exactly? The after is after finding Monday's body. Yeah. So the timeline was a bit confusing. Like after I finished the book, like I see the purposes of those chapters, but the way it came, like it always just felt like a bit random and it confused the narrative. Like I probably spent like majority of the book confused as hell and complaining about it to my best friend. And sure, at the end, some of the things I found confusing were answered, but at the same time, there was no reason for it to be written so confusing. Like I understand wanting to be clever, but there is a certain point where you trying to be clever confuses your readers. Like on a second read through, like it would be fine, but like on a first read, having it be that confusing was just so freaking irritating to try to figure out where I was and make heads or tails of what that was going on. And like looking back in hindsight, some of the things that happened in the after doesn't make sense. Okay, so in the before, she's like 14 years old, I think. No, I lie. I think she's 13 or 14. She's in her last year of middle school. I think she's in 8th grade, if that's how all the grades work. And then in the after, she's 16. She lost like 2 years of her life. Anyway, like I hated when the chapters genuinely started. Like there was a certain one in the book where everything was just starting to blow together. Like the chapters were just starting to blow together and nothing was really making much sense. And like ugh, I gave it 3 stars. Like the reveal was wow. I gave it 3 stars for that. It was like perfectly average and mediocre. Would I recommend it to someone? I'm gonna be honest, I probably would. Like someone else needs to understand my frustrations in this book. So yeah, those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, five. Oh, wow, five. So yeah, those are the 5 books I read in the month of October. I hope you enjoyed listening. Thank you for visiting my library, and you have a wonderful rest of your day.